Well, good evening, Legacy families, and thank you for coming to our 2020 DLP Parent Orientation. This is a exciting time. It's very, very different, and we're working out the kinks here a little bit. So, thanks for your patience. And it's hopefully you can still hear me. I got a little bit of echo here in the NPR, but we are really excited to try out some of this new live streaming equipment that we have that we'll be utilizing this school year. So this is our parent orientation, and I appreciate you all being flexible. Obviously, we are in very interesting times this school year, and we are trying to make adjustments, and everyone is seeking to address things creatively and appropriately. So we want to be able to give you information in a multiple ways, whether that's through our email notifications, maybe some of our quick updates in our app, and then also tonight through this video. So just sort of a little bit of a opportunity to say, before we begin, I want to welcome our new families. So if you are new this school year, I want to say a special thank you to each and every one of you for choosing Legacy and partnering with us and allowing us to partner with you for the development of your child. We consider it a joy and a privilege to come alongside your family and educate your child. And I can't wait to meet you very, very soon. And we're hopeful that we'll be able to reopen very soon. But thank you for entrusting us with your child during this time. And a special note to our kindergarten parents. Generally, on an annual basis, we'll have a new kindergarten orientation where we talk through some of the helpful things to know as you come to school for the very, very first time. We want to provide that information to you as well. Myself, our Associate Head of School over Academics, Stacy Zorchek, and our Associate Head of School for Activities, Garrick Moss, we will be putting together another recorded video for you to view as you anticipate the start of the school year, and then also that anticipation to full campus, on-campus learning, and we want you to feel equipped. But certainly, if you have questions in regards to your particular kindergarten start, please feel free to reach out to us. It is a little bit of a different start, and so just by way of introduction, I want to just say our heart today, my goal is to provide information that may extend a little bit beyond the emails that have come out, and to provide some of our plans with the different offerings that we have, kind of allow you to hear our heart and our mission in regards to how we view the things that are going to be happening just within 1 week, and then also provide an opportunity for you to ask questions. So before we begin, I want to take a look at just our 4 guiding principles that we set out really at the springtime as we anticipated returning, and now that looks a little bit different for us, but really the 4 guiding principles have not changed. So first of all, we want to ensure that we are honoring God and honoring the authority. That's what we are looking to do in terms of honoring the authority that is before us, and being faithful to what God has called us to do as an institution and the authority that is above us. We ultimately know that God is our authority, and He has placed in our lives and in our communities governing authorities, and so we want to be mindful and up to date and do our due diligence to understand what are the expectations, what is expected of us to ensure the safety of our students. Secondly, we want to promote safety. So that's very, very simple in the idea of it, and we have been promoting safety for many, many years. And so a lot of times we've considered our safety in regards to the physical safety, the emotional safety, and now we're looking at a different type of health safety concern that we've educated ourselves on. We've looked at different guidances and really done, as I said, our due diligence to ensure that now we can ensure student health safety as we welcome students back onto our campus at all of the appropriate times. Next, it's always our heart to be improving. If you know anything about Legacy, we pursue excellence. So being able to pursue excellence, which is our fourth point, involves us evaluating ourselves. What have we done well? Where are areas that we can improve? Receiving feedback humbly. Those are things that enable us to maintain a position of pursuing excellence and carrying out our mission for our families here at Legacy. So those are our four principles. With the maintaining excellence, I would just say that no matter the avenue in which we deliver education, we want to do it in an excellent way. Because again, that goes back to our first point. We honor God with our excellence. So that's what Legacy is about. That's our four guiding principles. And tonight, there are a couple of topics that I want to make sure that we cover. So the first topic that we're going to be looking at is the topic of health and safety. What are the protocols? What are the procedures? What are the things that are sort of new in some sense when students return to our campus? In a lot of ways, what are the health and safety practices that have just become part of our life now, whether we go to a business or try to go into a restaurant or even just walking amongst the community? There's certain healthy practices that have become a part of our life that we want to continue to promote here and ensure that we're practicing those at an educational level and then just being responsible. Next, we want to talk and give a clear understanding of our childcare and how that's going to operate. Following that, I'll talk about our DLP 2.0. And then we'll take some time to talk about our Discovery Camp. So each of those, really all three, will be summed up in any given day once we start school next Wednesday. But I want to take each component of that and look at it separately. And then we'll give an update on our reopening. Our reopening plan is available on our website, easy to view. We've talked a lot about our reopening plan, and we're eager to implement it. In a lot of ways, we've implemented it in our summer Discovery Camp already. We're implementing components of it here with our Discovery Camp and our childcare, but just kind of giving you a little bit of update on our reopening. And then finishing our time with some additional helpful information that sort of doesn't really fit in any particular box, just kind of as they've come to my mind. I wanted to make sure that I addressed with you guys. And then we'll close our time with a Q&A. And the way that the Q&A will operate is that the chat in our YouTube Live will be opened at that time. We'll take a short break following the presentation, about a minute or so, where you'll see the logo come up, and then we'll get situated with our moderator, and then we'll come back to a live feed where I can read through those questions that are submitted and answer those for you, and we'll close out our time, because I know there are questions that you no doubt have. So first of all, talking about our health and safety. Our health and safety. First, I want to answer this question that is, I think, very foundational. It's, where are we getting our information and our direction? It's very common to look to school leaders and wonder where are they getting their information? How are they making decisions? We want to be transparent and open about how we've educated ourselves. We have looked to a number of resources and sources that I want to share with you right now. None of them are going to be of huge surprise. But we have sought to do our due diligence over the summer. So in terms of resources and sources that we have, the first would be the CDC. So the CDC's released their guidance for us to take a look at. Secondly, we would be looking at the California Department of Public Health in consultation also with the LA County Department of Health. And just a quick word about how those two departments work in relation to one another. Because I know that we all, if we're watching the news and we're trying to stay informed about things, we'll see news about the American Pediatrics Association giving their recommendation, or the CDC giving their recommendation, or the WHO. And then the California Department of Health will come out and release their recommendation. But ultimately, with us being in LA County, we have to wait until LA County releases their guidance and reopening plans for whatever particular business or organization is within the county. So we understand how those organizations work, those departments work together. And so we're mindful of the recommendations that come from these other organizations, but ultimately we're looking to the LA County Department of Health. And they've been very, very helpful. They actually provide a fairly frequent, I'd say in the past couple months now, it's been once a week, a telebriefing for educators of K-12 schools, where that's an opportunity to hear directly from Dr. Barbara Farrar, who gives the updates and makes a lot of the decisions, for her to share with principals and educators about their thought process, things that they're thinking through, and then allows for some question and answer time as well. So we're able to listen in on that, and we're provided that information. Actually, a lot of that information will come out prior to the public information coming out as well. And so we've had to have flexibility in that. We've seen that with the announcement of the waiver. First with the closure announcement of the watch list on July 17th, and then the option for the waiver being released by the California Department of Health, and then not having any sort of guidance in writing about how LA County particularly would offer those waiver applications until, unfortunately, as we all know, they announced that based on some guidance from the California Department of Health, they were going to hold on applications. So we've already experienced that relationship between all of these departments, and so we know which departments to look to. Next, we would say we've consulted with medical professionals, and I've shared that in some of my communications. Obviously, we want the guidance, we want the recommendations, but ultimately, it was very important for us as an institution to look to those who are on the front lines. Those who are on the front lines at our local hospital, Henry Mayo, and those also who have a familiarity with our program, our school, our facility. So being able to reach out to the chairman of the task force, who happens to be an alumni dad, Dr. Bud Lawrence, and have him review our reopening plan, give insight and recommendations and modify that and submit it to him again. Ask a nurse who works with COVID patients and works in the ICU as well to say, okay, what does this look like? What are your thoughts? And receive those thoughts. So again, wanting to do our due diligence and be thoughtful and make appropriate recommendations and a plan of action for the safety of our students. And then lastly, just reviewing other institutions, whether other academic institutions, reviewing dozens of reopening plans, not just in the state of California, but throughout the nation. We have access to schools putting up their reopening plan and just trying to think creatively about how to approach this issue. Now, obviously, the regulations in another county or another state would be different, but the idea is to think outside the box, be creative, and be thoughtful about our reopening plans. So that's sort of our resources and our sources that we've looked at. And so next, just sort of moving into now, as a result of that, what have we done? Physical distancing. That's something that been promoted from day one. Now we have a little bit more of an understanding of it. And so what will that look like for us in our context? First of all, our classrooms where students will return, those have been constructed to promote physical distancing. So we've gone into our classroom, we've measured out the classroom, we've laid out the desks to ensure that the number of students in a class actually can be seated at 6 feet apart, or if in the instance where there is not the ability to have physical distancing for a group of students in that class, that we have installed the plexiglass barriers. So in terms of installing those plexiglass barriers in cases where physical distancing is not achieved, we've gone ahead and taken those measures. So those are being installed right now, and we're very happy with the physical layout of our classrooms for physical distancing. Additionally, signs and markers will be placed throughout our campus to remind students, give that visual to children, to adults. And again, these are things that you have seen as you've gone through the marketplace and other institutions and businesses. So not a lot of this is revolutionary for any of you, but it's something that we understand that is important, and we want to make sure that we provide to our physical building to just help be those reminders. Just in terms of ensuring that when the lunch area is used, lunch will be eaten indoors where we've already established that physical distancing, and then the lunch tables are marked out from our Discovery Camp actually to ensure that when students are eating snack, they actually have squares on the tables that mark either whether they're permitted to sit at that spot or they're not permitted to sit at that spot. So even in our outdoor facilities, those markers are there to promote physical distancing as well. And then on our playground, I can just tell you I was very encouraged by how our Camp Discovery ran with rotations of students even being able to be outside for some time, and our staff out there promoting and encouraging and reminding students to keep that distance from one another, respect one another and the health of each other, and to maintain that physical distancing. As I've mentioned in our reopening plan, structuring our recesses and our lunch so that it limits the number of classes out there at one time so that we can maximize our full space out there will again promote that physical distancing. And next I want to just talk about our cleaning and our disinfecting. So in terms of what to expect in our facility being cleaned, touch points in the classroom will be regularly sanitized throughout the day. So our teachers will be cleaning and sanitizing those regular touch points. So the desk, the doorknob, the chair, shared items will either be eliminated or limited and sanitized before and after use. Now again, in terms of these protocols, I want to remind us again that as we look to our resources and sources, these guidelines and these recommendations come from LA County Public Health on reopening a school or a facility where children are at play during the school day. So playground and outdoor equipment will be sanitized between stable group usage. Stable groups would be a group of students who stay together for the majority of the time that they are here. So as they go out and then they come back into the classroom, our staff will spray down the playground equipment. Any outdoor equipment that's been used will be sanitized before that next group comes out to ensure that that equipment is safe and children's health is intact. The facility will be cleaned daily, and then we've, as was our practice before we went on our stay-at-home order in March, we will keep up with our outside company doing our monthly deep clean. So in terms of other healthy practices, there's a lot that we can do in terms of promoting physical distancing, washing and disinfecting, but ultimately there's a personal responsibility that all of us have to maintain healthy practices. And so these healthy practices are for our staff and for our families and our students. And as we've been meeting the last couple days, I can tell you we've walked through our COVID policies and procedures as a staff. We've walked through the information that we're going to talk through with our DLP. We've had a COVID talk with Dr. Lawrence, who came by and spoke to our staff to just give an understanding of the virus itself, how it manifests itself, the experiences that they've had at Henry Mayo, and just the impact of COVID-19 on our community and how we should view that as educators in our context. And so all of that's been very, very helpful, and it informs us as staff, and hopefully it informs you as families to just be mindful that so much of what we're talking about is personal responsibility. As we partner with you and you with us, we're entrusting that you will practice safe, healthy practices as you are entrusting that we will practice safe and healthy practices. So the first is obviously, if you are sick or your child is sick, we would ask that you would stay home. A lot of times there's a tension there. Prior to COVID-19, there would be that tension of, well, maybe just give the kid some medicine and send him on his way. He'll be fine. Just get him maybe through a good part of the day. We want to discourage students, staff, anyone really from feeling sick and still coming to our building. The risk is not worth being in childcare, being in discovery camp, and when we reopen, being back in class. I would say to any parent, take the absence. We will get you the work. Your teachers will work with you. The important thing is that your students stay home, rest, drink lots of liquids, take that time to get well, to ensure that there's nothing more serious, and that it's just perhaps just a cold. So just be mindful of that, and we thank you in advance for keeping your kid home if they're sick. We're going to promote frequent hand washing. Hopefully that's a practice in your home already. So just as students come into the classroom, as our staff come into the classroom, okay, we're going to wash our hands. We're going to do it for 20 seconds. And we're going to get it really, really clean in there. And so educating the students as they come on campus that that's a regular, healthy practice. So a lot of this is just personal education that hopefully over the last 6 months have sort of start to become healthy habits for us as well. Hand sanitizer is always been in our facility and encouraged, but now we've reinstalled into our classrooms and a number of the main hallway areas the no-touch dispensers as well. So students and staff will be encouraged to use that no-touch dispenser as well. Next, just in terms of reminding students, now this is sort of an interesting one because when we start to talk about face coverings, it sort of creates that understanding that, well, if they're wearing face coverings, it doesn't really matter how they cough. But the reality is that a cough or a sneeze through a face mask still can allow those droplets to go through. So practicing going for a tissue would be the first preference, but we also know that even if we have tissue boxes throughout the classroom, a sneeze or cough may come on. So teaching children and staff to cough into the inside of the elbow, sneeze into the inside of the elbow. Again, nothing revolutionary in terms of newness of information, but those are the practices and encouragements that we're going to have for our staff and for our students. Next, looking at healthy practices, we would be encouraging that maintaining physical distancing just to the point where it's on the student's mind, it's on the teacher's mind. As we walk through the hallway and we make our way out to recess, or we're heading down to the Discovery Lab, there's a blue tape along the center of our hallway, and there's arrows that promote the one-way traffic. And so the reason that's there is so that we can promote physical distancing. And as you walk, you're giving that space between the person in front of you and the people behind you, and just being mindful of maintaining physical distancing. And the biggest education for our students, especially our younger students, will be while they're outside. And so being those reminders, using opportunity for positive reinforcement, even recognizing within our Character Caught program to celebrate students who are very mindful and thoughtful of in caring of their neighbor and their friends. So just in terms of healthy practices, avoiding handshakes and hugs and physical touch. I know the elbow bump is really popular now, but high fives, handshakes, all of those we would encourage students and staff to avoid. And then lastly, refraining from touching your eyes and your mouth after touching any sort of surface. So those are just part of your own personal practices that we hope will become habits as students are here. A quick word about face coverings. Face coverings is a very polarizing topic. And at the end of the day, we want to ensure the safety of our students. And so the requirements that have been communicated to schools and to businesses in LA County right now is that face masks are required. So face masks will be required in all common areas. For our teachers, they will have the opportunity to use face shields with the drape affixed to the bottom while instructing the students in the classroom. For our enrichment teachers during Discovery Camp, for our classroom teachers when we reopen. But even in common areas, when they step out of their classroom, they'll substitute that face shield for an actual face covering while they're walking along the hall or in the resource room or just going about their business. The face mask exemption for the students will be available, but even within that, we would require the students who have the exemption to then wear the face shield with the drape underneath. And that's something that we walked through with our Discovery Camp kids. And so just a word of encouragement for any of you who are concerned with the child wearing the face mask for a long period of time or having a problem pulling the face mask down. It's been a battle in your home throughout the summer and you just don't think that your child will wear the face mask. You don't think that they should wear the face mask. We're wanting to be very thoughtful, very gracious, very kind with providing the opportunity for the face shield with the drape to students who need that. But then also allow us as a staff to promote face covering, to encourage face covering. Because if you've been in the legacy classroom, if you've seen your child impacted by their teacher, you know that there are certain things that your students can rise to because of the care and nurture of your teacher. So as your teachers welcome them back and they see a face mask on maybe in the hallway, or they hear from the teacher the importance of wearing the face mask and not touching your face, and we're going to keep it off of our chin and proper coverage. We want to be able to see that appreciation from the student's perspective of, oh, wow, my teacher thinks this is important too. And now, you know what, it's actually really important to me. And so encouraging that, we've seen that transition in other areas of students where perhaps they haven't been comfortable on stage during a performance, and we've encouraged that and provided more and more opportunities to try to get over that hump, get over that struggle, persevere, and find victory in that. So we want to work with you as a family. So I would just say as a family, as parents, speak of these regulations and guidelines in a positive manner. It's going to be counterproductive for your child to hear in the car or in the home a negative view of face mask, and then as they come to school, make that switch to view it as a positive or as a necessity. So as a requirement here, we want to view it as something that's positive and manageable. Obviously, it says there that we want proper coverage to be utilized and enforced as well. And so the face covering would not be required during PE or outdoor play because, again, going back to that guidance that we refer to, there's been guidance that allows for during outside play and exertion, as long as the physical distancing is promoted and ensured, that our students and children would be able to have that opportunity to not have the face mask. So the question of, well, is my child going to be wearing a face mask all day long? Well, if they're in the childcare, they'll have a little bit of window there when they go out for that recess block. And if they're coming to school for PE, they would also have that block as well. So hopefully that's clear and encouraging just in terms of how we are viewing face masks. And I'll tell you, my face itches and I have to adjust it. And it's just a part of being out and being a responsible citizen and adhering to the guidance and regulations that are out there. And our staff are making those adjustments as well too. So moving on to how we are making changes to our facility, just practically speaking. As students come to childcare or to Discovery Camp, the student cubbies will not be utilized. Again, those are close quarters and don't promote physical distancing right now. So students will bring their belongings in a bag. We're going to allow for if younger students need to bring the roller because they're bringing a lot of supplies, that's okay. They'll bring it, they'll place it next to their desk, and then be able to work independently there with their supplies there. They're not getting up and going back and forth and crossing students perhaps that in a way that doesn't allow for physical distancing. Our 6th grade students will not be using their lockers during DLP. When students return for full on-campus instruction, we'll have a rotation in a system and students spread out, identified in ways that allow for limited numbers of students at the lockers in a physical distancing way to rotate through, grab their things, then go to the line or the classroom, and then allow for other students to be at the lockers as well. Playground, I talked about the sanitization. Just being out there, we won't be allowing for shared use items. So the question has been given about bringing your own equipment. I'd like to give some guidance to that, probably a little bit here in the future before school starts, about how we would ensure that any sort of students bringing a playground ball or basketball or a soccer ball to childcare or during our reopening, how we would sort of approach that. So we're gonna hold on that for right now. Drinking fountains, we have our water bottle fillers throughout the campus. We're looking at installing a few more as well. The drinking fountain part of the sinks in the classrooms and in the water bottle fillers will be turned off, and there'll be a cover on those so that students know that that's not how we get hydrated. And for students who are coming to campus, it's going to be very, very important that they come with a reusable water bottle, whether that's a Hydro Flask or an Nalgene or some sort of water bottle that they can refill at the water bottle station, and it's not an issue for us to try to locate a way to get them hydrated. So in terms of your checklist in the morning, gathering all the necessary supplies, books, lunch if they're coming to a childcare, and then either way, if they come on campus, to have a water bottle on them, a reusable water bottle that they can fill at the water bottle stations. Ventilation, this week we have our air conditioning being serviced and new filters being put in, and we're talking about a schedule where windows would be opened and how we would promote a good ventilation in the classrooms throughout the day as well. Obviously, right now, with the heat being what it is, with the smoke being what it is, it would be safer to run the air through the AC and run it through the filtration system rather than open up the doors. But we want to ensure that we have good ventilation in the classrooms as well. Moving on to our DLP 2.0. Obviously, I can talk a lot about the experience that we had in the spring and how it was all hands on deck, sort of crisis mode, stay-at-home order, everyone trying to figure things out. We really appreciated your feedback on how we managed that situation. We spoke with our teachers at the end of the school year. We compiled all of those notes. We evaluated our program, and we looked ahead to putting together a DLP 2.0 and really anticipated putting it on the shelf for a possible stay-at-home order in the future, maybe during flu season this fall. But thankfully, we were prepared in many ways to move back to that. Even though we didn't anticipate starting the school year off, we're very happy and eager to start our school year off with our DLP 2.0. You saw some of those highlights in the video that we released. But just talking a little bit more practically about that for the school day, I would say prior to your arrival, you'll be given instructions on how to utilize the app as a family to go to your students, information and acknowledge that you've read through the personal health screening questions, and you can acknowledge that you can answer those and be on campus. Excuse me, and then you would take your child's temperature at home prior to leaving. And again, we talk about if you're sick, please stay home. If your child has a temperature, please stay home. It'll save you a lot of trouble and probably a lot of frustration instead of driving up to Legacy and then us taking the temperature before they enter the building and then having to call and say, your child has a temperature, they're in isolation, and we need you to come and pick up. So health check, a temperature check, those are going to be administered at home. And again, the guidance from the Public Health Department is that those things can be done at home. So entrusting that process to the family in the home because they recognize, practically speaking, how to go through and walk through the checklist on campus with schools much larger than ours would even have a lot of difficulty with that. So I'm going to put the health screening questions on the screen for our families who were in our Camp Discovery. They're very familiar with these questions. These questions come from Department of Public Health, the CDC, and just acknowledging personal health, exposure to potential or confirmed cases of COVID-19, or travel. So those questions will be what you are answering and then clicking on the app. Our staff is doing the exact same thing. So in terms of the childcare component of DLP 2.0, as I stated in the email over the weekend, this is intended to be needs-based. We want all of our students to experience the quality of a legacy education through our DLP 2.0, but we also recognize that depending on the working home, there may be need for childcare. And so there's a couple different options for a family. Find outside childcare or go through with the school's childcare offering. And I can tell you right now that we have not yet had to turn anyone away for childcare on the needs-based criteria of the families that would receive childcare. So I am very appreciative of families acknowledging the need being the priority, as I can understand that students, a lot of them and a lot of families want their students back on campus, and that day will come, and we're very excited for that day to come. But in terms of providing that childcare and being respectful of the needs of others, I thank you that the numbers reflect that that's a needs-based childcare. So in terms of those utilizing that, we would say you can arrive as early as 7:45. Be thoughtful that by 8:05 you should have your kid on campus so that they can enter into the classroom, they can get situated and ready, so that right at 8:15, when the school day starts for the students, they're prepared. So really work at, we gave that window of half an hour to allow for family work schedules. We have just we've been able to see that even over the course of the years, the amount of traffic that picks up in a morning drop-off is about at that time, 7:45, 7:50. And so being thoughtful about when students can come to be at Legacy. The students in childcare, where will they be? They will be in one of their grade level classrooms. So we know that those classrooms have been measured out and can physically accommodate students with the physical distancing measures in place. And so as students come to childcare, they will go through the side gates, either the K side gate or the far gate by the lunch area, and they'll make their way to the back where they can remain physically distanced. There'll be some markers out back where they can line up for their class, and then their assistant will come out and take a temperature check of the student to ensure that they in fact are healthy enough to enter our building, and then they'll be taken into one of their grade level classrooms to start the childcare. The other grade level classroom will be dedicated to our two teachers who will be teaching their content from that classroom. The supervision during our childcare will be divided with our assistants in that grade level being in that childcare classroom, providing student support and help, answering questions, troubleshooting technology, and just ensuring that, in fact, this is a dedicated learning time. So whether students have their headphones on and they're listening to their teacher, or they're working independently, the assistants are there to provide that classroom environment. And then our counselors will be out on the yard as those times for recess and for that lunch. And then in the enrichment check-in time block, we'll provide that supervision there as well for students coming onto our campus. Next, in terms of the drop-off and the pickup, in regards to the drop-off, we would really encourage families to utilize the car line. That's going to limit the amount of traffic, the gathering, the temptation to catch up with so-and-so. We really want this to be pretty smooth drop-off. Our administrative team will be out there to help students exit out of the car, direct them where to go, and that'll really help things move along quickly. And then as enrichment blocks end and students are dismissed, they'll be walked out to the front and then given to the parent there as well. Again, the car line would be preferred for just, again, limiting that gathering in the parking lot, where all that we're trying to do to ensure the safety of the students could really be compromised by a large gathering in the parking lot. So thank you for being mindful of just even that. The room layout in terms of physical distancing in regards to the camp discovery and where those camp enrichment classes are going to be, each of the classrooms will be already set up as a classroom. So we'll talk about where the enrichment locations are going, but in terms of the setup in the classroom, the room layout, that'll look identical to what we've previously communicated about our physically distanced classroom. Check-in will be for the childcare. For those students, they'll make their way to the back, and then when they walk up into the line for their class, they'll check in with their assistant. As I've said, they'll take their temperature and then direct them to come into the classroom and get prepared. So in terms of the schedule for childcare, again, that starts at 7:45 and will go until the enrichment block. And then parents have the option, depending on the grade level, and there's a lot of different schedules for each different grade level. There's some overlapping. We know that some parents are going to utilize the childcare and then pick up right after the enrichment. So just in terms of providing that schedule to follow and mirror the regular school day. So what a child at home is doing during the morning time is what the child on campus is doing as well. So there's not going to be extra playtime or extra gatherings or any sort of special events on campus for children in childcare. We are providing a schedule and a setting that mirrors the classroom environment and would be the same for the student at home. Now, the student at home might have the benefit of being in their PJs, but that's a different topic. For recess, that'll be embedded into the school day for students at home, students on campus with the childcare, and it's just a time for a little bit of a break. So at home, taking a break, getting a snack, being here on campus, taking a break, getting outside, maybe getting the wiggles out, stretching, and then coming back in for class as well. Lunch. Lunch, if you're at home, prior to coming to your enrichment, if your enrichment is after lunch, or perhaps following your enrichment, if your enrichment is before lunch, lunch is to be eaten at home. We will provide a time for the students who have childcare here to eat their lunch, and the students who are here will have an option for a grab and go from our lunch provider. California Fresh Foods has put together a menu that they'll communicate out to families who sign up for that grab and go option, and that's provided for the students who are in childcare now, and then when we return to campus, that'll be available to all students. Childcare versus after school. So for our families who need care after dismissal, we will provide the traditional after school. And actually in the forms that were sent out earlier this week, there's an option to sign up for after school. There is that portion that is for morning care, which would be available once we return to campus. But if you need after school, go ahead and use that form to register for after school and let our front office know that you'll be utilizing that on a regular basis for this school year. Distance learning. So our daily schedule. Our daily schedule is intended to make that transition to back to school learning a smooth transition. When we closed on March 13th, we took 2 days, and just 2 days, to close, prepare, allow parents to come pick up their supplies, and we hit the ground running. We made that change so quick, and it was so well received that we were ready to make those changes. On the flip side, now we're on DLP and we want to make that transition to reopening as quickly as possible. And we want to be positioned to be able to make that change the following day. So if we get our waiver application notification that, yes, you are permitted to open under your reopening plan, we'll notify our families. We will state that the following day we are ready to go. Please, we're going to go ahead and launch into on campus. And so our daily schedule now mirrors to a certain degree those that framework of a regular school day. So in regards to some of the enrichments being at different times, we tried to keep that consistent. And when we return to campus, that schedule for the regular day will kick in. But we've tried to create a schedule that creates a little bit more of an understanding of, hey, from 8 to 3 or 8 to 1:45, this is a time for school. So that's what you'll see in our daily schedule. For our teachers, being in the same classroom, we are creating teaching teams between the two teachers. So our teachers will teach in tandem to your students, and that will look different at every grade level. But essentially, they will work as a team to deliver whole group instruction through the video means that we have, and they will be providing either alternating instruction or departmentalized instruction depending on their grade level and depending on their team, so that all third graders will see some instruction from Ms. Kolstad and some instruction from Mrs. Miyamoto. And then with the small group Zooms, those will be dedicated to the teacher who is in that individual that has that individual class. So that will be where a little bit more of a individualized personal care will be able to take place on a regular basis within those Zoom times. And then I think lastly, just in terms of our distance learning, we made a real large emphasis on in our live instruction. I just want to just give a little bit more clarity and direction on live instruction, because there is that sense that we don't want students on the screen for 7 hours each day. But we also don't want students to just have a few minutes of instruction and then sort of a free-for-all or work on worksheets and try to figure things out. We've been training our staff on utilizing different technology and strategies through distance learning that will be effective, to where teachers can get on and have a live welcome, have a live lesson with the students, and then invite them to maybe watch a pre-recorded video of themselves that reinforces the material, allow for the students to then go into a time of independent work, and then jump back on and have some of that reinforcement, checking for understanding, assessment of the students. So we're going to be implementing a lot of different strategies that have been proven to be effective for young students, older students, distance learning, and then even just person-to-person strategies that do also translate to the technologies. Discovery Camp. The Discovery Camp is our enrichment courses, and that's laid out in our schedule. So you'll see that. Our enrichment teachers, just in terms of their locations, we're going to have our students go into our Discovery Lab, and we're reconfiguring that room, as we've stated with all of our other rooms, to promote physical distancing. They'll get that lab feel. They'll see Mr. Anthony or Mrs. Del Rosario. But our other enrichment teachers will rotate into the grade level classrooms. And so our music teacher, our art teacher, our Bible teacher, they're going to be rotating through and go into the 4th grade classroom. They'll go into Mrs. Meister's classroom, and since our classrooms are already structured and ready to receive students in a physical distancing and safe way, he can teach in that classroom, and then students who are either coming for that enrichment time or students who are with all of 4th grade during childcare will be dismissed to their classes for that time. And we'll go ahead and facilitate all of those rotations. So on campus versus online, we're encouraging students to log on and watch the class. If it's safer, if it's best for your child to stay home right now during Discovery Camp, we understand that. And we're happy to provide the opportunity to be able to view the instruction happening. And each teacher may be able to allow for a time where the students at home, we're going to interact with you and get your feedback and your thoughts. There's going to be some flex within the teacher's lesson and schedule, how to involve the students there to the best of their ability. But we want the content to be the same for the students who are at home and as the students on campus or online are getting the same education. In terms of the attendance, again, we want to structure this day to feel like a full school day. Our enrichment classes are effort-based, and so we allowed for that distinction of an NA to be awarded to students who struggle to get some of the assignments done for their enrichment courses, the can-do portion of the daily work. So if it's your desire that the students remain home and not sign on and not participate in the enrichment classes, that is a choice that each family will make. I would encourage each family to at least log in and view the classes so your child can be able to feel like he's participating in a full school day. But if students are absent, the teacher will reach out and try to gain an understanding of if this is the expectation for our time during DLP, so the teacher can plan accordingly, or if it was just a sickness or some other issues. Our teachers' videos will be recorded to be viewed later if it's a scheduling issue with your family. But in terms of effort-based grades, the attendance and the work done or the participation will be reflected in that effort-based grading for our students. So again, the NA would just be a distinction of not assessed during this time. It's not negative. It's just a qualification that for that time period it was not assessed, and so we want to provide that flexibility for families. But I would encourage you to take full advantage of our Discovery Camp offerings. Within that Discovery Camp offering, you'll notice that there's a technology and DLP support time block. And what that's intended to do is to allow for our teachers to assess with each student maybe where they might be struggling. Maybe your student in your family is having a technology issue. My camera's not working. My microphone's not working. It's delayed. I can't see the teacher. Those will be times where your student can come and meet with Mr. A. He can troubleshoot the Chromebook or identify, is it a tablet that maybe isn't configured with our program. I will say that for technology, our 4th through 8th graders, will all have their Chromebook that they will take home and utilize, whether they're on campus for childcare, off campus, and coming just for enrichment. When we reopen, they'll still be able to utilize that Chromebook. And then our lower grades will be utilizing classroom iPads, either classroom Chromebooks. If you do have a situation where you don't have access to a mobile device or a laptop that your child can use, please reach out to us, and we will help you in that regard. But it's just in terms of the technology support, and then also that block will be an opportunity for our teachers to evaluate ways to meet our students and support them. So if a student is really struggling with a concept, we want to allow for, during that time frame, for our teachers to step into a one-on-one time where they can support the student, maybe provide a quick assessment to the student, and just kind of see what does the student need, either instructionally or otherwise. And so that will be an opportunity for our teachers to have a little bit of face-to-face with the student, masks and physical distancing, obviously, but allowing that area for our teachers to sort of be able to rotate through their class on a regular basis in those blocks and utilize that, be purposeful with that to support our students. And perhaps there's a group of students, a small group of students that need to have a quick assessment or need some reinforcement, and so we'll have desks situated in our discovery hall where students can sit and the teacher can make their way around that rotation. So again, providing that personalized, individualized instruction and support will be utilized during that time. In the event of a COVID case, we have shared this in our reopening plan, but I just want to walk through it a little bit with you guys as well. So if a person, any person, their temperature is taken, or midday, they just are not feeling well, and they come up and they have a temperature. Immediately, if they have a temperature, then we will give that person a surgical mask. So that's really important because that's the grade of mask that would be best for the student to use during that time. That person, the staff member, whoever it might be, place that on there. They might have the shield, but that's a priority for us, and we would place them in our designated isolation room. We would notify the parents immediately to come pick up the child and direct them to seek medical attention and be under the guidance of medical personnel and allow for the medical personnel to assess whether to administer a COVID-19 coronavirus test. Others who have been exposed within close contact will also, if they're identified immediately, we will remove them as well, give them a surgical mask, and notify the parents, and give specific direction to those families whose student or person was identified as having close contact with the case. We would also provide an all-school notification. Just the facts. We're unable to provide personal information in too many details, but just to be able to say, hey, we've had a case of COVID-19. Here's our procedures. So walking through, just notifying our school community of that, and then communication with the LA Department of Public Health. They have their guidance. Obviously, every case of COVID-19 is reported to the Department of Public Health, and schools are instructed to work directly with the Department of Health when a cluster has been identified. So three cases within a certain setting within a window of 14 days would be how a cluster is identified. And so next, moving on to just thinking through understanding how close contact is defined. So close contact is defined as an individual who's been within 6 feet, so not physically distancing, with an infected person for a duration of more than 15 minutes, and has also not been wearing a protective face mask. Okay, so if you think about times within our campus, and this should be very encouraging to families just in terms of the concern of a positive case at school and will my child be exposed? Well, in terms of close contact, if students are wearing face coverings while they're in our building, that really places a lot of the opportunity for close contact to then be out on the playground. But again, there's that 15 minutes. So our staff being vigilant to remind and encourage and prevent that length of time for students to be in close contact should really hopefully set us at ease about close contact with an infected person in COVID-19. So an individual also would be defined as someone who's been in unprotected contact with an infected person's bodily fluids or secretions, for example, being coughed on or sneezed on when not wearing physical or not wearing those masks. So utensil sharing, sticking things in your mouth, that would be defined as close contact. So again, with us promoting physical distancing and our face coverings and allowing for very limited time where that would be even a possibility, I hope that's encouraging. And those definitions of close contact come again, going back to what I said at the very beginning, those resources and sources, those are not definitions that I've made up. Those are the Department of Public Health. Just closing out, some other helpful information that I just wanted to make mention of. In terms of the students' dress when they come to campus, students will not wear their uniforms during DLP 2.0. Okay, so for childcare, for Discovery Camp, our teachers are going to be professionally dressed. They're in they're doing their craft, they're teaching, they're going to be professionally dressed. Students, as they come for childcare, Discovery Camp, after school, they will not be in uniforms. They will follow the free dress guidelines that are in the handbook, but they will not be in school uniforms for the time that we are in DLP 2.0. I am so excited for that day when we can welcome our students back for a full reopen on campus and say, throw that uniform on. I'm going to put my bow tie on. Students are going to put their uniforms on, and we're going to run back into our campus. So we're going to hold the uniforms until we are back on campus for full on-campus instruction. Calendar events. I know the calendar went out with all of those forms. We just want to give you a clear picture of the year. Obviously, those events will be assessed as the weeks go on. And so our communication will continue to be regular in regards to how we're going to approach Meet Your Teacher Night, how we're going to handle Back to School Night, how we're going to look at some of these different events that would regularly be scheduled but cannot happen because of COVID-19. And rather than project out a certain number of weeks, we're just going to take it on a week or a few weeks ahead of time, depending on the event. Obviously, some events need more warning than others, but we'll be communicating that out. So you're looking at the master calendar and wondering, well, where do we have to go for Meet Your Teacher Night? We'll be addressing that, how we'll be handling our Meet Your Teacher Night here very soon. And then also, we recognize that students need to get their supplies, need to get their items. So we will be scheduling a supply pickup time next week for our families to come by, grab the things that you need, and be all prepared and ready for the first day of school. And then lastly, we will be putting together a DLP student family agreement just so that we can help the students think about school from a distance. And so important things to remember when you're on Zoom: proper etiquette, proper independent work expectations, behavior expectations during a Zoom or when you're on campus. Just sort of walking through with the students what would be expectations that would be helpful to their learning. We want to spell those out at an age-appropriate level. So we'll be submitting that to you as a family. They will allow you to talk through those things with your student, allow them to sign it, and then you'll submit it to us as well. Lastly, I wanted to just close. I mentioned that we've had a consultation with medical professionals. So I wanted to just share a letter of recommendation that Dr. Lawrence was so kind to give us. And so I want to close our time of the presentation with this letter. It says, "To whom it may concern, we are in an unprecedented time. COVID-19 has truly placed our country, states, communities, and schools in the inevitable position of struggling to make important decisions with little to no data to guide us. Through research and preparedness, community leaders work tirelessly to put their best foot forward with the safety of our great population in mind." Matt Millett, and really the entire staff at Legacy Christian Academy, is one of those community leaders and leaders as an institution. He and his team, his whole staff, have been thoughtful and diligent in preparing for in-class instruction for their students. They have produced a comprehensive reopening plan that truly addresses every element of safety related to the COVID-19 pandemic. From daily screening to face coverings, playground procedures, they have managed to create a safe environment conducive to on-campus learning. As the chairman of the Henry Mayo Hospital in Newhall COVID-19 Task Force, I was asked to review the preparedness plan. I was able to work closely with Mr. Millett to confirm that all aspects of student, family, teacher, and staff were fully addressed. I feel that the outcome of this hard work is detailed and complete, controlling as many variables as possible. Most of all, the parents, students, and faculty at Legacy Christian Academy wish to return to an on-campus experience. This is something this progressive reopening plan safely allows for. There are also appropriate contingencies in place to account for any possible COVID-19 related outcome. I certainly feel that Legacy Christian Academy has done their due diligence in making sure that their campus is ready to resume on-campus classes during the COVID-19 pandemic. Please accept this letter as a sign of my unwavering support for the Legacy Christian Academy's COVID-19 reopening plan. And then Bud has listed out his qualifications and credentials. So just be encouraged. I know in many ways it is hard to imagine, especially with so much news and many narratives running throughout our news feed or our social media feed, what it's like to return to campus and to return to some sense of normalcy. And we want to provide that pathway for our families to do that in a way that acknowledges and follows those resources and sources and guidelines that we've talked about, and being thoughtful and appropriate with our plan. So hopefully our time with the presentation has been helpful. We are going to take a moment to get our Q&A ready. So you'll see the logo come onto the screen, and just give us one moment. We'll be right back, and we'll open up our time to some questions. All right, well, thank you so much. We're going to take some questions now. If you don't see the chat in the window there, just go ahead and refresh your window, and that should pop up. And we're going to get to as many questions as we can with the time remaining. So as those questions are coming up, those are being shared with me, and I will answer those as quickly as possible. The first question we have: when students are working at home for DLP, what will be the protocol when they can't watch live for whatever reason? That's a great question. Those videos will be recorded as well and then dropped into either Seesaw or Google Classroom and allow for the student to be able to watch that at a later time. Because we know, again, having done DLP in the spring, we know that there's things that come up in life. So we want to make that available. My student is starting in 2nd grade at Legacy, and we bought him a laptop last week. Is this acceptable, or will he need some other device? No, a laptop is actually the preferred use for technology. Obviously, if you have a tablet, we should be able to work with that. If there's any issues, again, we will troubleshoot that. But laptops is going to be the preferred use for our students. And as I said before, our fourth and up will be having the Chromebook that's designated for them to use and to bring back and forth. And then younger students either provided at home or for the student. It's a question, what will enrichment look like for kids who cannot be on campus? Obviously, knowing our teachers and wanting to make sure that our students are all engaged. Obviously, the focus will be on the students that are in the classroom and making sure that they're hearing the content. Some enrichments are a little bit different. Some are hands-on more than others. We've had conversations with our wonderful art teacher, Mrs. Harris, about identifying what supplies may be used for the unit that's coming up and gathering those and packaging those up and making those available to our students at home so that you as a parent could come, grab those supplies, and be ready for art class next week so your child feels a part of the class. There obviously will be a component of your child feeling like they're watching what's happening in class, but again, our teachers being able to be mindful of that, engage your student when appropriate, and allow them to participate as much as possible. Might be a little restrictive in our sciences, but in terms of other opportunities for students to get involved, we want to try to make that happen for the students staying at home. Can my child transition from online enrichment to in-person if they choose to do so at a later time? Absolutely, right? My hope is that any hesitations parents might have on Wednesday, they hear about how wonderful the first day of school was on Thursday. Now, again, as we've stated, the enrichment classes will begin on Monday for our elementary students. So there will be a little bit of those first 3 days utilizing that schedule a little differently than we would normally utilize that. So starting Monday, being able to give students an opportunity to experience it at home and see how it went, and then jump on. Certainly, we would welcome your students because, again, it's happening in the classroom. Our classrooms have been measured out for physical distancing, and so we know that a full class of students in a Bible class is something that we can manage because we've prepared for it in our reopening plan. We have a couple of the sample DLP schedules, but was there a final? Was not sure about the dismissal times on Discovery Camp. Yeah, so the sample that went out this last weekend is what we actually also reviewed with our staff over the trainings and the meetings. We wanted to give them eyes on that as well, allow them to speak into that because that's their context. So maybe something that we did not anticipate, we did not see. They can share their feedback and insight, have a collaboration on that to where really when the class lists go out, it also will be able to be accompanied by our school schedule for DLP. Great question. If we filled out the childcare form, will we get an email confirming that we will be able to come on campus? Yes, so we've been in the process of processing those submissions, identifying grade levels and families, what days they've signed up for, if they're doing childcare, if they're doing on-campus enrichment or online enrichment. And then we're going to be sending that notice to the family, kind of a confirmation. Hey, here's some things to keep in mind as you come back to campus for either childcare or our enrichment. But I would say we've had several multiple submissions that we sort of had to click through. So I know it can be a little nerve-wracking. Maybe when you push send and then you're not quite sure did it go through. Chances are we have your submission, but if something did happen and we didn't get it, we'll obviously work with you. Our numbers, like I said, they're encouraging that families have respected the fact that it's a need-based opportunity. So if you don't get that confirmation here in the next, by the end of the week, I would say go ahead and check in with us again. Our assignment deadline's the same as the spring, by 3 p.m. and then late after Saturday. That's a great question. There's some of those components for DLP 2.0. We've taken our DLP packet and made the changes that reflect our DLP 2.0, and we will actually be submitting that packet to families via internet, so you can be able to view that, and those type of deadlines questions and some other enrichment questions will be available in there for you to review. Will children who are home be able to see their classmates in class? It's possible that during the course of the classroom, a student, a teacher may be interacting with the student, and the student is on the camera. The swivels that we have coming to our classrooms will all, as you saw in the video, they'll follow the teacher. So if the teacher is moving throughout the classroom, they'll be able to see the classroom dynamic there. The point of the class time, though, is to hear instruction from the teacher primarily. So there wouldn't be a time for student to student to catch up and interact with students in that way, because we want to ensure that students are focused. And even I would say in the childcare, as they're in class together, the reason that they're there is for childcare, and we're creating that environment where they're learning and on task, not chatting with one another and socializing with one another. Are uniforms prohibited? Our daughter loves to wear it, sometimes even on free dress day. That is so wonderful. Obviously, we would not say, no, you cannot wear that. Go home, take that off, and put on a free dress outfit. But certainly we would just treat that as a free choice, free dress choice. And I know that there are those students who just love to get dressed up. But for us, and just in terms of really making that distinction that, hey, we are doing our distance learning. Our core instruction is happening through distance learning. We have our childcare, and then we have these Discovery Camp offerings, and we're going to reopen our school, full school, when permitted. Please let us know when we can pick up. We will. We certainly will. Teachers are gathering all of those supplies, and right now the challenge is all the trainings and the meetings that we're having and inundating them with new information and trying to equip them, and then allowing for them to get their classrooms ready for DLP, and then even being thoughtful about getting their classrooms and their mindsets ready for our reopening as well. Will DLP 2.0 be similar in nature to 1.0, using Google Classroom, uploading completed work? This helps to inform what we decide for our child to complete the work. Yes, so as you saw in the video, there's a new platform for our younger grade students called Seesaw. It is very much age appropriate for the younger grade students. So Our staff actually got trained on it this morning, and we're excited to roll that out as the hub for our lower grades to be able to submit work. But yes, we will be utilizing Google Classroom and Seesaw for news feed and submission. And also keep in mind, again, we're not on a stay-at-home order, so there may be assignments that are just turned in. Your student is coming for enrichment, so they're going to bring their assignment and turn that in. They're going into their classroom. And it might just be simpler for you at home to not even bother with the scanner. That can be simple technology items compiled on other simple technology requirements can be overwhelming at times, especially when you're having to manage schedules and everything. So certainly have the freedom now to bring those paper assignments in and turn those in when your child comes for enrichment, or if you've chosen not to and you just want to drop them off, that would be appropriate as well. Will the staff be undergoing periodic COVID testing? That's an interesting question. I know it's been mentioned. Right now, we've seen the guidelines for regular health screenings and safe practices. Like I said, we've been in consultation with Dr. Lawrence. Right now, there's no plan to move beyond any sort of testing here or requirement of testing for just a regular practice. That would obviously be available through our health plan with our staff. But if there's not a need or symptoms or a reason to test, we're not yet going there. For children who are in childcare, do they need to bring their own computer or iPad into school? That's a good question. So fourth and up, they will have their Chromebooks. It's actually going to be required that they use that Chromebook. A fourth grader who says, well, we have a family iMac, a MacBook, that's great, use that at home. But when you come to school or you're doing your school work at home, the Chromebooks have all of the programs downloaded. Mr. A can troubleshoot those particular questions and issues on the Chromebook. So we're asking and requiring fourth and up to go ahead and be using the Chromebook that we've provided them. And then that automatically goes into their Google Drive and it creates that ease of use for the student and for the staff. The lower grades, as I said, if there's a need, if there's not a laptop available for your family, please reach out to us and we will help you out. When they're on campus for childcare, we do have class sets of Chromebooks. In the lower grades, we have class sets of iPads. So we'll have technology available for the childcare students, but if you have your own, that would be helpful as well. If a family travels outside of the state during school, does the child need to stay home for 14 days before returning to school, even if there is no mandated self-quarantine? So there's a listing, and there's a listing of states and places that are on the quarantine list. Obviously, we're most familiar with Hawaii being on that quarantine list. They actually quarantine you when you go there. International travel, when you return from international travel, those California mandated travels we would adhere to. If you're traveling just for the weekend, or even if we're still in this spot during fall break, if you're traveling to a place that does not make it onto that list of concern, then there would be no reason that we would enforce the quarantine. There are a lot of states actually that are seeing a rapid decline in their numbers and opening up at a faster pace. And so obviously if a family went to that place, you would not see that be on a quarantine list. But if you can fit enough kids into the enrichment class, why can't they fit in the regular class? They can. If I'm understanding the question correctly, it's probably in regards to the needs-based childcare restriction. Now, we can't fit a class into a class. But now, if we open up the childcare and place all of our students into the class, what that does is then moves out the teachers out of the class, which is something that we are promoting and really feeling like that's an improvement in our DLP, as opposed to having our teachers teach from their kitchen table or teach from their front porch or wherever they might be, put them in their context, give them the resource, the support that they need, give them the technology, and allow them to teach from their classroom. When the students view lessons, it's from their grade level classroom, and there's a familiarity. And then really, you just know when you step into your context as a professional, you just know that you're in that context and you're ready to work. So it's empowering our teachers, equipping our teachers, and then helping provide our students with that normalcy of, oh, wow, I'm seeing my teacher. And we've even seen that across the board. Public schools trying to get teachers into the classroom. I'm thankful that our staff want to be back here, are excited to be back here, ready to start. And so when we say we're going to teach from the classroom, you just have a tremendous amount of buy-in from our staff, so I'm grateful for that. Will their homework to DLP be done after DLP hours? The DLP 2.0 packet will address that a little bit more, but in terms of homework, the work and the assessments and the worksheets and those things, those will primarily be done within the school day. So you're not going to find a lot of instances where you have work within the school day, and now on top of that, now you have a bunch of homework. We want the school day to remain within the school day, 8:15 to dismissal, and then the students go home and get that rest and be able to really just enjoy being home. When will you be releasing class lists for the school year? Those will go out Saturday to our families, so be looking. The last few years, we've been releasing those electronically. So class list, class schedule, a letter from your teacher, and an introduction to the school year will be given to your families. So I'm being waved down by the folks in the back. And so I just want to say, if there was a question that you asked and it just got scrolled up and didn't get tagged, we still want to answer those questions. So go ahead and email those questions to info@legacy-christian.com, and we'll get those answered as quickly as possible. Again, we're in the midst of our trainings. A lot of our day is dedicated to preparing and being in meetings and leading meetings. So we want to respond to those as quickly as possible so that you are informed. Hopefully tonight's time was helpful and informative for you as a family and as a school community, and I thank you for tuning in. And again, look forward to the first day of school, DLP 2.0. Have a great night.